well, just don't pronounce it Tommy. Salam, hoş abadid, and welcome to this new stream of Las Plumas de Seymour. My name is Plumas, and I'm here so happy to provide with an entertaining session, definitely entertaining and full of shenanigans, of yet another reading aloud episode of the Book of Kings. How are you? I missed you so much. I missed you so much. So much. I just wanted to come and sit and do my live streams because, Bacha, you are very much missed. Salam, no soy Ros. Jovi, are you okay? I'm gonna start, you know what? No soy Ros. I'm gonna start addressing you in Persian because I think you have the level enough, you already speak Persian as I do, so you are perfectly able to understand. But in case that is off, because I want you to know, I will tell you that Khubi means are you okay, are you good. Khub is good, and that E in the end, it refers to you directly. So Salam no soy Ros. Khubi man khayli khubam. That means I'm very good. I'm so happy, although I am completely destroyed because of two factors, one of them being this heat that we have around, because not a happy bunny, I'm a winter person, and because of that I want to stick to my wintry thoughts, and I have tea with me. Salam, hola publica, Khubi. Are you okay? You good? And it's such a pleasure having you here. We don't coincide that often, and that is lovely. Thanks for thanks for timing the find. Hi, cheer up, dyslexia. Eva, thanks for finding the time for joining us today. And today is going to be among the craziest yet most amazing readings of the Book of Kings, because this happened. I mean, I know already what's coming, but when we did this live session last week, I kind of relived everything again, and I remembered how much I love this narrative arc we're going to start. And I don't know if Umberto is among us, but Umberto, if you are listening, this one's for you. Because we had, I dedicated last reading aloud session, I dedicated to Major Luna and to No Soy Ros, because they kind of they anticipated celebration for the return of the reading sessions of the Book of Kings, and I'm not sure if you want to celebrate that much, but this, Umberto, this is for you. And if you don't know who I'm talking about the wonderful, fantastic, stupendous Umberto Ansariel from the podcast So Do You Think You Can Rule Persia, which I'm going to paste. It's not a question, actually. It's So You Think You Can Rule Persia. I'm going to paste the link just on the chat box in case you want to take a look for this podcast. Of course, cheers to them. Cheers to Sariel and Umberto. And yeah, are you up to date? I am not, but tomorrow I'm traveling, so that means a lot of binge listening to my favorite podcast. Cheers. Was this boiling? This was a very tiny sip, but it is a sip after all. So today we're going to resume the reading of the Book of Kings that we stopped. We left in a quite dramatic, catastrophical situation. And because I tried this in Spanish last session and it worked pretty well, what I'm going to do is that for this sessions I'm going to use some music out in the background, so you, Bacha, can have something to listen to, because if not, maybe these reading sessions are not that, I don't know if they're nice or not, I like them, but maybe it would be more inciting for you, more entertaining for you if I play some music. So I'm going to, again, if it's you're here, Umberto. So happy. I so wanted you to come. I mean, I always want you to come, and I want everyone to come, but you especially, because I couldn't stop thinking about you. Because of what we read last week. Anywho, I'm not to date, but I'm working on it. Mire usted. Más años que un bosque, no soy Ros. Okay, so enough shenanigans. As I was saying, how's the music? If it's too loud, please let me know, and I will tone it down a little bit, a bit. Last time we sadly witnessed the passing away of Sohrab. I was gonna say another name, but no. And that was tragic. That was awful. But the arc of Sohrab is closed now, and we're starting a new narrative arc, and one that I am particularly fond of because the protagonist in here is fantastic, at least for me, and I hope you love him as much as I do. I was gonna say did. This character for sure made it to my top tier list. I would say top 3 back in the day when the only characters I liked were this one, Simul and Zol. However, I would admit that currently my top tier looks so different. However, there's a high position for these characters in my heart and in my list, and maybe sometime I get to actually sit my bum around and do that tier list and rate the characters from the Shāh-nāmeh. But who knows? I don't know. Plumas, now Plumas Hanum needs to take a holiday. All right, so let's start our reading. Some time has passed. No, so Ross is laughing because he knows. Some time has passed from this war between the Turanians and the Iranians, in which this catastrophic, terrible disaster occurred, which was the death of Sohrab. I'm really sorry. He's in my system already. And but yeah, some time has passed, and one day at Cucaracha. This is only a sneak peek of how happy and excited I am. Anyway, one day at Cock-Crow, Tuz Give, who are still around, and a number of other knights rode out from their knight's court. Taking along cheetahs and hawks, they set off for the plain of Darui to hunt for wild asses, because yes, this is an animal that was quite usually hunt, and I recommend you give a listen or a watch to one of our latest streams about the kunga and the horses in the Fertile Crescent, because horses are always lovely. After they brought down a great quantity of game, enough for 40 days, they saw that the land before them was black with Turkic tents. Why do I say Turkic? Because these people are not Turkish, as in they do not belong to the Anatolian Peninsula. I'm talking about the Turkic nomadic people coming from Central Asia, Transoxiana and such. These nomadic tribes will be the Turks, quote unquote, that will make it to the Seljuk Sultanate, and then eventually they will move to Anatolia and they will form the Sultanate of Rum, which means, like, you know, around the area that will eventually become Istanbul and such. But yeah, we say Turkic in order to make a difference between the Turkish from Turkey, modern day Turkey, and the previous ones. In the distance, close to the border between the Iranian and Turanian people, because yes, the Turanians are the Turkic nomadic people, a thicket was visible, and Tuz and Gib, followed by a few others, rode over to it. To their astonishment, they discovered a beautiful young woman hiding there. And Tuz said to her, "How is it? A girl as radiant as the moon is in this thicket?" She answered, "Last night my father beat me. He came back drunk from a feast, and as soon as he saw me, he drew a dagger and began shouting that he would cut my head off. And so I fled from our home." And before continuing, I want to remind you that this book was written in the 11th century, and even though we love this book, we do not condone or do not endorse everything that happens on it. So yes, this is quite a sexist book, so what happens is not to be proud of, but I have to read it anyway. The knights asked her about her family, and she explained that she was related to Garzibaz, who traced his lineage back to Fereydun, none other than our beloved and sadly deceased Dragon King. Everything was better when Fereydun was around, and I know Noceros is on my team. We miss Fereydun so much, he needs to come back. Then they asked how it was that she was on foot. Team Cow, always Team Cow, yeah. She said that her horse had collapsed in exhaustion, that the quantity of gold and jewels she'd brought with her, together with her crown, had been stolen from her by bandits on a nearby hill, and that one of them had beaten her with the scabbard of his sword. She added, "When my father realizes what's happened, he'll send horsemen out to find me, and my mother too is sure to hurry here to stop me going any further." The knight could not help but be interested in her, and Tuz said quite shamelessly. I found this Turkic girl. I rode on ahead of the rest of the group. She's mine. Give responded. My lord, didn't you and I arrive here together without the others? It's not fitting for a knight to get so argumentative about a slave girl. Their words became so heated. Listen to this. Like, instead of just let it be or just help the poor girl out who's hurt and lost, that they were ready to cut the girl's head off to resolve the matter. Are you kidding me? Yeah, if it's like, if we have a saying in Spain that I'm not going to reproduce because it's not suitable for children like you, Bacha. But it is one of those things when you think, are you sure that is the best outcome? So nobody's taking the girl, therefore we're cutting her head off because, yeah, that sounds like appropriate. But to resolve the matter, one of the company suggested that they take her to the Iranian king's court, and that both should agree to whatever the king decided. Yeah, take the girl to Kaikavuz. That has proven so useful for the past 20 episodes. Anyway, and so they set out for the court, but when Kaikavuz saw the girl, he laughed and bit his lip and said to the pair of them, I see the hardships of the journey were well worth it, and we could spend a day telling stories about how our heroes went hunting with cheetahs and snared the sun. It's a beautiful compliment, yet Kavuz, refrain yourself, Kavuz will find the way. The Kavuzada way. This is the way. This is the Kavuzada way, definitely. She is a delicate young doe, and prey like that's reserved for the very best. Again, I'm not proud of this, but it happened. He turned then to the girl and said, What family are you from? Because your face is like an angel's. She answered, My mother's nobly born, and my father's descendant from Fereydun. My grandfather is Garzi Boz, and his tent is always at the center of our encampment. Stay hydrated, Bachel. Kavuz said, And you wanted to throw to the winds such a fine lineage, not to speak of your lovely face and hair? No, you must sit on a golden throne in my harem. Which in here is not exactly correct to say harem, but I'm reading it because the poem's translated as such. But more than a harem in the usual way that we would picture it, we need to refer to it as women's quarters, because in the Iranian palaces, the tradition dictated that palaces separated for women were built. They're close, they're within the same Palatine complex, of course, but men and women live in different dependencies. So I'm going to try to avoid that word, not because it's inherently incorrect, but because it evokes thoughts of, like, you know, extremely spicy and, you know, not exactly historically accurate, because in this case, Kavuz is referring to the quarters, like the women's quarters in his own palace. But I wanted to make that note in case you are reading the Shāh-nāmeh and you find that word, so you would have a better insight of what this is referring to. I honestly don't know why they went for the word harem in here, but definitely women's quarters would be closer to a correction. And he said, Now you must sit on a golden throne in my women's quarters, and I will make you the first of all my women. She answered, My lord, when I saw you, of all heroes, I chose you for my own. Convenient. Enthroned within the women quarters now, arrayed with rubies, turquoise, lapis, and gold brocade, she was herself an unpierced, precious gem, a princess worthy of a diadem. This kind of context, says No Soy Ros, tips, is one of the reasons I'm up millions to watch these streams. You make me so happy. Like, I'm honestly thrilled that you enjoy this live stream so much, because these are my favorite. I mean, I think I said this in every single live session we have, but this is the reason I'm here. This is the reason I opened my, I'm gonna take this out. It's a post-it note and it says the name of the character. We will meet shortly, but I need to take it out. I have it marked, of course, because I've read these part many, many times. Why? Because I'm a bloody masochist, apparently. But, yeah. When spring, with all its glorious colors came, Kavuz was told that his encounter with this radiant beauty had resulted in the birth of a splendid son. How is the music, Bacha? Are you enjoying the music? Can you hear it? Do I tone it up, down, left, right? You let me know. Resulted in the birth of a splendid son. The loveliness of the boy's face and hair was rumored throughout the world. The king, his father, named him Shāh-nāmeh and had his horoscope cast. So Shāh-nāmeh has multiple ways of transliterating his name. He is our lovely protagonist, and he is a star in a dark sky. He is the last drop of water in a hot day such as today. And you can find him in a more Arabic way as Shāh-nāmeh, also Shāh-nāmeh, Shāh-nāmeh. I call him just Shāh-nāmeh because that's how my Persian friends pronounce his name, and I just learned it, and I cannot pronounce it otherwise. Also, I would like for you to get a closer hearing of what a Persian name sounds like. Thank you, Umberto. And so yeah, it's Shāh-nāmeh. And then Kavuz had the horoscope of the kid cast. You know that this was a tradition not only among princes but nobility, and practically everyone wanted this for their kids because the knowledge from the stars was considered an omen, a prophecy on how the future of the newborn was going to look like. However, the horoscope was not auspicious. Taking refuge in the will of God, Kavuz was saddened to see that the stars did not augur well for the boy's future. No, things are not looking good. And shortly afterward, Rostam came to court and said, "Salam Serapis, are you okay?" Rostam came to court and addressed the sovereign, and he said, "It is I who should undertake the education of this lion cub. No courtier of yours is more suited to the task. In all the world, you won't find a better nurse for him than I shall be." And this is lovely for Rostam to do, and this is a personal insight. This is not a contrasted opinion, but just mine. I really think that in this moment, Ferdowsi is kind of compensating Rostam for the recent loss of his son by entrusting, Kavuz is going to entrust him with the education and bringing up of Shāh-nāmeh. I really like that Rostam does this because, once more, he's not a selfish character. He's a brute, and he is a little bit, a reckless person sometimes, but he just means all good for the kid. And the king pondered the suggestion for a while, and seeing that his heart had no objection to it, he handed into Rostam's arms his pride and joy. This is a very important thing. Kavuz is giving to Rostam his heir, his son, for him to educate him. The noble infant warrior Rostam took to Zabolistan and there constructed a dwelling for him in an orchard. He taught him how to ride and all the skills appropriate for a horseman, how to manage bridle and stirrups, the use of bow and lariat, how to preside at banquets where the wine goes round, how to hunt with hawks and cheetahs. Two things about this. The first one being, you're listening to me say that he teaches him the skills of a warrior, but also the skills of a prince. And this is something we've commented upon more than once in this channel, the Bazm and Razm, the hunt and the feast, which were considered the two main things a prince had to major and excel on. Ever to excel, like the university I did my PhD on said. So it's really relevant for me that you keep in mind that princes are not only trained or educated to be killing machines, also they address the hunt, and we've commented on this before because Tuzengir also brought cheetahs with them. But animals such as dogs were common. However, felines, and I mean large felines, were very much used for hunting, especially princes and the higher circles of society. And that is impressive because today we will think of a cheetah in a much more exotic way, as a species that is not that abundant, but in ancient Iran, it definitely was found everywhere. Same goes with lions. They had their own subspecies in the Iranian plateau. The normal lions anymore, sadly. However, cheetahs are, the Iranian cheetah as under protection is a species at the brink of extinction, and I like that we can use a Shāh-nāmeh to get to know them and get to know the importance they had, not only for the environment, but also for the literature and, say it with me, the self-defining narrative of Iran. What is that, nosotros? Ferdowsi is making his roots get around us to crush them into the pieces again when we are at low God. You are so correct! You know you are correct. So Rostam keeps on teaching the boy what justice and injustice are, all that pertains to the crown and throne, what wise speech is, what warfare is, and how to lead his troops. He passed on to him all the arts a prince must know, toiling to teach the boy, and his labors bore good fruit. Siavash became a prince without a peer in all the world. And time passed, and now the youth was hunting lions with his lariat. Around this time, Siavash, you know that the Shāh-nāmeh doesn't give us any age, of course, how is it going to? But I would say that Siavash is either in his late teens, such as like 18, 19, or already in his early 20s, around 20, 21. I think in the past stream I said he was 20, like around 20. We'll stick with 20, but, you know, it's an average, like, it's an approximation. Siavash turned to Rostam and said, I need Shāh-nāmeh. I love it! I need to see my king. You've taken great care and great pains in teaching me the ways of a princess, but now my father must see the skills that Rostam's taught me. Azizam! He's so pure, he's so cute, and he just wants to go to his father and prove himself, like, hey dad, look at me, I am a magnificent prince. Yes you are a magnificent creature that shall be protected from everything in this world. So Rostam prepared presents for him, horses, slaves, gold, silver, seal rings, crowns, thrones, cloth and carpets, and whatever his own treasury could not supply, he sent for from elsewhere. That is beautiful. I mean, he is just spending all of his treasury in making Siavash his own, having like giving the prince his own budget, so to speak, like so his own riches, and I think that is very beautiful. And he had Siavash splendidly equipped, since the army would be observing him, and to keep the boy's spirits up, listen to this, he accompanied him part of the way, which again I feel is something very, very cute and I don't know, just sweet from Rostam to do. And this kind of reinforces my theory that Rostam is giving Siavash what he could not give to Sohrab, and just the fact that he rides with him in order to give him support, to hold his hand both figuratively and literally, because this is the first time the boy is presenting himself to the court as a prince. I think is it is very sweet. It is. There's a word in Spanish, but it's very tender, but I don't mean it in that way. I'm going to look for it. Yeah, it says affection, fondness, so that would work. It's very affectionate of Rostam doing so, going through all these like worries for just this boy. So this is something I want you to learn and to memorize and to encrypt in your brains. Rostam and Siavash's relationship is very tight. Rostam loves this kid dearly, like a son. Please keep that one in mind. It's important. His people decked the road in splendor, mixing gold and ambergris and sprinkling the mixture on him as he passed. Every house and street was decorated, and the world was filled with joy. Gold coins were scattered beneath the horses' hooves, which I think is something a little bit dangerous to do, but each their own. The mains were smeared with saffron, wine, and musk. In all Iran, there was not one sad soul. And this is the power that Siavash has in himself. He is pure happiness. He makes everyone happy around him. Siavash was welcomed at the court with great pomp and ceremony. Festivities were held and Kaikavus lavished gifts on his son, reserving only the royal crown, saying that the boy was as yet too young for such an honor. This is an important detail too. But after 8 years had passed, he made him Lord of Kavaristan, the land beyond the Oxus, and the royal mandate was inscribed on silk according to ancient royal custom. Now, this ancient royal custom, we can draw back maybe to the time of the Sassanids, because such these sentences are possibly taken from other sources and they are not Ferdowsi's creation. And it is interesting how, you know, in the ancient world, when royal mandates were dictated, they would traditionally engrave an inscription, create a monument, maybe copy it in any sort of text. However, in this case, we see that they are inscribing the mandate on silk, and that is quite particular. I don't know if that was the custom maybe inherited from Central Asia towards China because of the silk, or if it was something only the Sasanians and maybe the Parthians did. Umberto, if you know, please enlighten me, or if anyone knows. But I like these kind of sentences because they give you like a glimpse of that the Shāh-nāmeh was not only composed by one person, because if you remember, Ferdowsi was only the last author to finish the Shāh-nāmeh, but there were over 4 previous Shāh-nāmehs at least. I can't speak English. Oh, Virgencita. Well, now, do you remember the king's wife, the queen, Shāh-nāmeh? If you don't remember her, she was the daughter of the king of Hamaberan, and she was imprisoned with Kaikavus when he was held captive again, and she was taking care of him. She organized quite a scandal about that when they were taking Kaikavus, and she said, no, I am this woman's wife and I will follow him and I will go through the pains he goes through because I am with him, blah, 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 blah. So that is Shāh-nāmeh, the queen. And have I told you that Siavash is around his 20s, maybe now 25 or something like that, and he is, god damn it, he's fine. He's such a fine gentleman, and I don't mean only physically but spiritually, and everything about Siavash is pure beauty. Outside, inside, upwards, downwards, sidewards, everything. It's like there's not one thing that's wrong with Siavash. Boy's fine. He's so fine. And Shāh-nāmeh kind of notices, but in a more intense way than the average of mortals would notice something like that. Virgencita. She grew strangely pensive, and her heart beat faster. She began to waste away like ice before fire, worn thin as a silken thread. She's got a crush, basically. She sent someone to him saying, if you were to appear in the royal women's quarters one day, it would cause no alarm or surprise. Ah! Ah! The magpie is out. Okay, so are you following? Do you know exactly what this woman is asking? You're like, hey, why don't you come around? We could hang out, you know, you and me, the other women in here can pay a visit. But Siavash replied, I don't like women's quarters, and I won't agree to plots and intrigues, so don't bother me, please. Like, Siavash is very gently yet firmly declining the offer. Do they have Netflix to chill with? I think so, but I don't think so. Anyway, so he says basically a no. At dawn the following day, Shāh-nāmeh hurried to the king and said, "Great lord, who's like the sun and moon have never seen, whose sons a matchless paragon, dispatch these youths to your women's quarters, where his sisters and your women can set eyes on him." Yeah, wouldn't you like that, Shāh-nāmeh? "Will do him homage and give him presents, and the tree of loyalty will bear sweet fruit." Kavuz, in quite a Kavuz fashion, replied, "Your words are wise. Your love is equal to 100 mothers' love." I mean, no. The most Spanish and blunt no that I can convey. Your love is equal to 100 mothers' love. Are you sure though? Miss, please. Madam, please let go of me. But Kai Kavuz, in quite a Kavuz fashion, he calls Shāh-nāmeh and said, "Blood ties and love will not stay hidden long. You have sisters in my women's quarters, and Shāh-nāmeh loved you like a mother." Yeah, Kavuz, if you repeat that like 1,000 times, maybe you can make it true. Dad, your wife won't let go of my arm. And Kai Kavuz continues, "God has created you in such a way that everyone who sees you loves you. Literally. And those who are your kin should not have to be content with glimpsing you from a distance. Pay a visit to my womenfolk. Stay with them for a while and let them honor you." Kai Kavuz is as blind as a bat. But when Shāh-nāmeh heard the king's words, he stared at him in astonishment. He strove to keep his heart unstained and clean and pondered what it was the king might mean. Perhaps Kai Kavuz felt some uncertainty and meant to test his faith or his honesty. He knew the king was sly and eloquent, watchful and warily intelligent. He thought, and if I go there, Shāh-nāmeh will corner me and pester me to stay. He said, Send me to men of proven sense, to counselors of deep experience, to those who will teach me how to fight, who know how I should wield a sword or shoot a bow, who know how kings hold court, how courtiers dine, the rules that govern music, feasts, and wine. What will I gather from your women's quarters? Again, awful thing to say, Shāh-nāmeh, but you belong to the 11th century, so The rules, what will I gather from your women's quarters? Since when has wisdom lived with wives and daughters? Shāh-nāmeh. But you know, again, 11th century book. But if these are your orders, I will do whatever seems appropriate to you. What is that, Humberto? Is he going to tell Shāh-nāmeh, do whatever they ask you to do? The king replied, "Rejoice, my son, and may wisdom always guide you. I've heard few speeches so eloquent, and it does a man good to hear you talk like this. But don't be suspicious. Be cheerful. Drive away such gloomy thoughts. Now, your loving sisters and Shāh-nāmeh, who loves you like a mother." Who's gonna tell him? Like, who's gonna tell him? Who loves you like a mother, are all waiting for you in the women's quarters. Shāh-nāmeh then, shrugs and says, "Okay, I shall come at dawn and do as you command." So, another thing we know about Shāh-nāmeh, he is obedient and very loyal. There was a man whose heart was cleansed of all evil called Hirbad, and he had charge of the king's women's quarters. To this wise man, Kavuz said, "When the sun unseats its sword, pay attention to what Shāh-nāmeh tells you." Then he told Shāh-nāmeh to prepare jewels and musk to scatter before his son. When the sun rose above the mountains, Shāh-nāmeh came to his father and made his obeisance before him. Kavuz talked to the boy for a while, then summoned Hirbad and gave him his orders. He said to Siavash, "Go with him and prepare your heart for new delights. Kavus, words are powerful. Don't..." Oh God, yeah, you're right, said Abis. They was mad, perhaps. Oh my God. Oh no. Then the two went off together, lightheartedly enough, but when Hirbat drew back the curtain from the women's quarters entrance, Siavash felt instantly a presentiment of evil. The women folk came forward with music to welcome him. He saw bowls of musk, gold coins and saffron on every side, and as he entered, gold, rubies and emeralds were scattered before his feet. He trod on Chinese brocade, worked with pearls, and saw facing him a golden throne, studded with turquoise and draped in gorgeous cloth. Why is that not Rose? Kavos one more time, not the smartest of the classroom, not blind anymore, but with a narrowed sight always. Oh, you're so on point. You always as sharp as an eye, yes. In this throne sat the moon-faced Shāh-nāmeh, a paradise of tints and scents, splendid as the star Canopus, a tall crown set on the thick black curl that fell clustering to her feet. Beside her stood a slave, her head humbly bowed, her mistress's gold-worked slippers in her hands. As soon as she saw Siavash enter, Shāh-nāmeh descended from the throne. She walked coquettishly forward, bowed before him, and then held him in the poem says, lengthy and tight embrace. Oh! Slowly she kissed his eyes and face, gazing at his as if she could never grow weary of him. She held his face with her hands and murmured, "Throughout the day and for 3 watches of the night, I thank God 100 times for your existence. No one has ever had a son like you. No king has ever had a prince like you." Siavash, of course, wants to just die. He's quite flustered. He's blushing and he's very, very uncomfortable. And he knew what all these kindness meant and that such friendship, quote unquote, was improper. He hurried over to his sisters, who greeted him respectfully and sat him on a golden throne. So I really like this image of him being like, sisters, help! I am only a boy. Please come to my rescue. And then the sisters go, Aziza. After spending some time with them, he returned to the king's audience hall and the women's quarters buzzed with chatter. "That's what I call a real prince, so noble, so cultivated. He seems like an angel, not a man at all. And his soul just radiates wisdom." And Siavash is just feeling dizzy and he's gone through too much. He went to his father and said, "I have seen your women's quarters. All the splendor in the world is yours, and you can have no quarrel with God. In treasure and power and glory you surpass Jamshid, Fareydun and Hoshan." Careful with those words, Siavash. Nobody surpasses Fareydun in anything. Like, in this house, we are team Fareydun. Always, forever. The king was overjoyed at his words and had the castle decorated like a spring garden. Father and son passed the time with wine and music, giving no thoughts to the workings of fate. At nightfall, Kavus made his way to the women's quarters to question Shāh-nāmeh. "No secrets from me now. Tell me what you thought of Siavash, of his behavior, of how he looks, of his conversation. Did you like him? Do you think he's wise? Is he better from report or when you see him face to face? Kavus, my dear, do you really want to know what your wife thinks of this beauty?" Shāh-nāmeh replied, "The sun and moon have never seen your equal. And who, in all the world, is like your son? This is not something to be secretive about. Now, if you agree, I will marry him to one of his own kin. I have daughters from you, and one of them would be surely to bear him a noble son." So alright, I will finish this and then we'll have a little bit of an explanation. Qaboos replied, "This is my desire exactly. The greatness of our name depends on it." So, what is Shāh-nāmeh doing? So, Shāh-nāmeh is tightening the rope shorter and shorter and shorter, because of course she knows that she cannot have Siavash, but she will in any other way possible. So if Siavash is married to her daughter, she can not only have him, interesting Sassanid marriage going on there, interesting many things going on in here, yeah. But yeah, as Umberto is saying, it was a tradition to marry the son of the king with another woman, with perhaps the daughter of the queen he already had, or the daughter of any of the other concubines or noble women that lived in the palace, because that way you would just, make sure, as Qaboos says, that the royal name continues. However, Shāh-nāmeh what's doing is trying to possess Siavash one way or another. I'm gonna get you one way or another. So, poor thingy. When Siavash came to his father the following morning, Qaboos cleared the court and said, "I have one secret, unfulfilled request of God." What a fantastic storyteller you are. Thank you so much, Hola Publica. I'm actually suffering. Oh, thank you. That was nice. A great compliment. Thank you so much. Ah! Okay, alright. Woo! Thank you, honestly. It is my greatest pleasure to share my favorite book with you, Bacha, and to get you into it as much as I am. And just sharing these stories with you is such a privilege. So how could I not be so enthusiastic about it? Okay, so Qaboos says to Siavash, "I have one secret, unfulfilled request of God, that my name should live through a son of yours. And just as I was rejuvenated by your birth, so you will know delight in seeing him. Astrologers have said you will father a great son, to keep our name alive in the world. Now, choose some noble girl as your consort. Look in King Pashim's quarters, or here in King Arash's clan. Look about for someone suitable." Siavash, who... Alright, I don't want to plant any seeds on your brain, but I want to plant seeds on your brain. So, do you remember how Siavash expressed himself? "I have no interest whatsoever in women's quarters." So perhaps Siavash is not that interested in women, period. This is not something the poem would say out loud, but I think, I just think. And Siavash says, "I am the king's slave, obedient to his wishes. But shouldn't Shāh-nāmeh hear of this? She won't like it, and I am having no more to do with her womenfolk." So he's being quite vocal about not wanting to do anything with Shāh-nāmeh or like coming back to visit her, whatever. He just doesn't want to be near her. And the king laughed at Siavash's words. He thought all was firm ground and had no notion of swampy water lurking beneath the straw. "You worry about choosing a wife," he said, "and don't give Shāh-nāmeh a thought. She speaks well of you and only wants what's best for you." Is Qaboos the worst king we've had so far? Because Jamshid was a handful, but he was very useful and he was very wise and he did great things. This guy, honestly, Siavash showed pleasure at each other's words and bowed before the throne, but inwardly he still brooded over Sudabeh's intentions. The next day, Sudabeh sent Hirbad to Siavash again, saying, "Tell him to put himself to the trouble of honoring us with his noble presence." Siavash then came to the women's quarters because he's a deer and he's obedient and he knows what his place is and he should not contradict the queen. And saw Sudabeh seated on her throne, her crown set on her bejeweled hair, her beautiful womenfolk standing by as if the palace were a paradise. She descended from her throne and sat him there, then stood before him submissively, arms folded across her chest like a serving girl. Yeah. She motioned to the young women, lovely as uncut jewels, and said, "Look on this place, and on these gold-crowned virgin girls whose characters are compounded of coyness and modesty. If one of them pleases you, tell me. Go forward and examine her face and stature." Siavash glanced at the girls, but they were all too shy to return his gaze, and also they were terrified of Sudabeh because they know that even though she's playing this part and pretending to be finding a wife for Siavash, she will completely lose it if other woman does touching Siavash. So nothing happens. One by one, they pass before his throne, each silently reckoning her chances of being chosen. When the last had gone by, Sudabeh said, "How long will you stay silent, my dear? Won't you tell me which one you like? Your face is like an angel's, and anyone who glimpses you in the distance wishes you were hers. Look carefully at these girls and choose whichever is suitable for you." But Siavash stays there, silent, thinking that it would be wrong to choose a wife from among his enemies. The story of what the king of Hamaberan had done to Kai Kavuz came to his mind, king of Hamaberan, the father of Sudabeh. And the fact that Sudabeh was this man's daughter and, like him, was full of wiles and hatred for the Iranian people. As he opened his mouth to answer, Sudabeh removed her veil, something quite scandalous to do, and said, "The moon's of no account beside the sun, and now you see the sun. Come now, choose one of these young virgins, and I will have her stand before you as your servant to command. But first..." Oh no. Oh no. "But first, swear me an oath you will never try to wriggle out of. King Kavuz will die, and when that happens, I will turn to you. Value me, then, as he was wont to do. I stand here now, your servant girl. I give my flesh to you, the soul by which I live. Take anything you want from me. I swear I won't attempt to slip free from your snare." She clutched his head and ripped her dress as though all fear and shame had left her long ago. Dear God! This woman knows people who are subtle. And things are all coward. It is awful. Lady, please. No, she's like literally, she's grabbed Siavash and just grabbed his head, forcing him back on the throne. She's completely undressed. She's standing naked in front of him and basically saying to him, "Take me now and I won't say a word. I won't try to escape if you do something to me." But Siavash's cheeks blushed rosy red, tears filled his eyes, and to himself he said, "May God, who rules the planets, succor me and have saved me from this witch sorcery, If I speak coldly to her, she will devise some spell to make the king believe her lies. My best course is to flatter her, to comb her heart with glozing chant and gentle charm. But he's terrified. He's crying, for God's sake. He's so flustered and in tears. That is such an awful thing. Honestly, so uncomfortable, so awkward, so violent for him. And so, protect the boy, yes, please. And so he said to Shāh-nāmeh, who in all the world is your equal? Who is fit for you except the king? Your daughter is enough for me. Not better bride for me exists. Suggest this to the king and see what he replies. I swear I will look at no one else until she's grown as tall as I am. As for this liking you've conceived for my face, well, God has made me as you see me, but keep these as our secret. Tell no one, and I too will keep the matter dark. You are the first to all our womenfolk, and I think of you as my mother? He tries. And it works! It works! Shāh-nāmeh is just so pleased knowing that she holds, allegedly, such a special place in the boy's heart. So she lets him go. So full of herself, you know, powerful. And he may not be alpha, but he's not an idiot. No, he's extremely intelligent, Oloko. He is very clever. And Siavash leaves, sorrow at his heart and crying a river. Poor thing. Can you imagine being in a situation like this? I hope that you've never ever experienced anything like this. No matter your gender, no matter your sexual orientation, this is wrong. And no means no in any country, in any language, in any culture. So unlike his dad, no, his dad is a complete fool. Yeah. The lights are not all on upstairs. Definitely not. When Kavuz arrived in the women's quarters, Shāh-nāmeh told him of Siavash's visit, saying that he had seen all the young women there, but only her own daughter had pleased him. Madam, please get dressed and go have a very, very cold tea to calm down your horses. Definitely, said Abby. She was naked in front of him! God! She's avoiding to say that, you know, to pass. She's avoiding to pass on to Kavuz that information. I don't know if you realize. But she's like, you know, he wants to marry my daughter. Yeah, have you considered adding the tiny but potentially crucial detail that you were completely clothless before the boy? And that you were grabbing his head against the back of a throne? Jesus bendito! Overjoyed, of course, overjoyed, the king had the treasury doors flung open and a great treasure prepared while Shāh-nāmeh watched in wonder. She was determined to bend Siavash to her will by any means possible, or if she could not, destroy his reputation. Because bear in mind, Bachar, that Shāh-nāmeh has threatened Siavash. If you try to do something to escape me, I will destroy you. I will kill Kai Kavuz and blame you for it. This is the darkest blackmail ever existed. Are you noted? Are you taking good notes of everything that's happening? Once more, she sat upon her throne, arrayed in all her splendor, and yet again she summoned Siavash. And yet again the kid goes to her because he's too pure for this world. Well, killing Kavuz was the good side of the plan. Definitely nosotros. I'm gonna go with you with that one. She says to him, the king has prepared treasures for you. Sorry, I'm gonna drink a sip of water. This is like me atraganto with this. The king has prepared treasures for you, crowns and thrones such as no man has ever seen. Immeasurable quantities of goods, enough to weigh down 200 elephants. And he's going to give you my daughter as a bride. Oh no. I don't want to keep going. Okay. Oof, I can do this. And he's going to give you my daughter as a bride. But look at me now. What excuse can you have to reject my love? Why do you turn away from my body and beauty? I have been your slave ever since I set eyes on you, weeping and longing for you. Pain darkens all my days. I feel the sun itself is dimmed. Come, in secret, just once. Make me happy again. Give me back my youth for a moment. I will reward you with far more than the king has offered. Bracelets, crowned thrones. But if you refuse me and hold your heart back from my desires, I will destroy you with the king and make him look on you with loathing. She's evil! Es mala! She's so mean! But Siavash replies, God bless him. God forbid I should lose my head for the sake of my heart, or ever be so disloyal to my father as to forget all manliness and wisdom. You are the king's consort, the son of this palace. Such a sin is unworthy of you. Bravo! Then Shāh-nāmeh sprang from her throne and stretched out her claws at him, crying, I told you all the secrets of my heart, and now you want to ruin me? To make me a laughingstock? She tore her clothes, clawed at her cheeks, and screamed so loudly the sound was heard in the streets. A tumult of wailing went up from the palace and its gardens, and hearing it, Qaboos sprang from his throne and hurried to the women's quarters. When he saw Shāh-nāmeh's scratched face and the palace abuzz with rumors, he asked everyone what had happened, never suspecting this was what his hard-hearted wife was the cause of all of this. Shāh-nāmeh stood wailing and weeping in front of him, tearing at her hair, and said, Siavash came to my throne and clasped me tightly in his arms, saying he had never wanted anyone but me. He flung my crown aside and tore my clothes from my breasts. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Iranian telenovela, because this is what we are witnessing right now. Qaboos questioned her closely, and in his heart, farsa maketo farsa me pera. Big fat lies, of course. And I just imagine Siavash standing right there, blinking. You know how in cartoons when they blink, it makes a sound like clink, clink, and looking at his father being like, seriously? Qaboos questioned her closely, and in his heart, he said, if she is telling the truth, and is not simply trying to stir up trouble, the only possible solution is for Siavash to be executed. The wise say that in cases like this, honor demands blood. Humberto! No, Qaboos, for once in your life, be wise. If only. If only. So he cleared the women's quarters of everyone but Shāh-nāmeh and Siavash, and then turning face to Siavash, calmly, he said, you must hide nothing from me. You didn't do this evil, I did. And now I must bear the consequences of my own foolish talk. Why ever did I order you to go to the women's quarters? Now I must suffer while you tell me exactly what happened. Keep your eye on the truth now and tell me exactly what occurred. Siavash, very calmed, very confident in his innocence, because he is innocent. Zero confidence in Qaboos team, zero. -3. Like, yeah. Siavash told him the story and how widely with passion Shāh-nāmeh had been, but Shāh-nāmeh broke in. This is not true. He wanted no one in the women's quarters except me. I reminded him of all the king had given him, of our daughter and all the treasure that was to be his, and I said I would add more gifts to the bride. But he said he wanted only me, and that without me, girls and treasure were nothing to him. He flung his arms around me. His embrace was unyielding as a rock. And when I wouldn't do what he wanted, he yanked at my hair and scratched my face. I'm pregnant. Oh, Jesús bendito. All right. I'm pregnant with a child of yours, my lord. And I suffered so much, I thought I would lose our baby there and then. The world turned dark before my eyes. So now, because she cannot stop creating, there's no way of stopping this big bulk of lies. She's saying that she's pregnant with Kaikavus's child, and because Siavash has beaten her up since she was rejecting him, the baby's life is at risk. This is a telenovela. This is like a Latin American just check their fingernails. Definitely. Kavus said to himself, I can't trust what either of them says. This is not something to be decided quickly. Crisis and worry cloud a man's judgment. I have to search out carefully which one of the two is guilty and deserves to be punished. To this end, he grabs his son, bring him close to him, and he sniffed at Siavash's hands, and at his arms, and at his body, like a dog, sniffing around. Next, he turned to Shāh-nāmeh, and on her, he smelled the scent of wine, musk, and rosewater. There was no man's... Yes, CSI Kaikavos, yeah. There was no man's essence. There was, like, the essence of Siavash was nowhere to be found. Because it never happened. And there was no trace of such scent of Siavash. There was no evidence as he had indeed touched her. Kavus grew grim, despising Shāh-nāmeh in his heart, and to himself he said, she should be hacked to pieces with a sword. Yes, yes, Kavus, follow that one, follow that one. Sniffing the smartest thing he does in the book. Yes, I love that everyone's on board with the Kai Kavus is a dumbass. But then he thought of Hamaveran and of the outcry that would arise if Shāh-nāmeh were harmed. And also he remembered how when he had been in captivity there, alone and friendless, she had ministered to him day and night. Dad, get the harpy away from me. The memory of these tormented him, and he said nothing. Thirdly, she was a loving woman, and he felt she should be forgiven for her faults. So something important to understand here is that Kavus is in love with Shāh-nāmeh. Madly in love with her, and he thinks she should be forgiven, as is yeah. Fourthly, he had young children. This is such a hypocritical thing to do. Let me read and then we will talk about it. Fourthly, he had young children by Shāh-nāmeh, and he could not bear the thought of their grief if anything should happen to their mother. But do you remember that Kai Kavus refused to help Sohrab? He could have saved Sohrab's life, but he didn't. He didn't do that because he thought that he would be too powerful and Rostam would dethrone him. So he allowed Sohrab, who is someone's child, to die. And he had no remorses about it. But now he's feeling, you know, these things, this stench in his heart that he wouldn't dare to harm the mother of his kids. Because they are your kids, right? Oh my god, Kavus, you did... Right? You did the last one in there, yeah. But still, Kai Kavus knew that Siavash was innocent, and the king recognized his righteousness. He said to him, well, think no more of all this. Follow the ways of wisdom and knowledge. Mention this matter to nobody. We mustn't give gossip any kind of encouragement. So basically we're sweeping that under the rug, as we say in Spanish. He needs to switch out her stuff with his spies, yeah. If only he would be reasonable. When Shāh-nāmeh realized that Kavus despised her because she's not an idiot either, she began to plot against Shāh-nāmeh, nourishing the tree of vengeance with her wiles. One of her intimates was a witch who was enduring a difficult pregnancy, and Shāh-nāmeh gave her gold, persuading her to take a drug that would abort the twins she carried. This is a monstrosity. This is so grotesque, and I love this part, and I need Netflix or whoever, Amazon Prime, HBO, whoever is listening to make an animated series of these, because shit hits the fan here. This is too much. Shāh-nāmeh said, persuading her to take a drug that would abort the twins she carried. Shāh-nāmeh said she would tell Qaboos the babies were hers, and that she had miscarried them because of Shāh-nāmeh's evil behavior. The woman agreed. When night fell, she swallowed the drug, and 2 ugly devils spawn were still born from her. These are not human, these are monsters. And this is a way the poem has to emphasize yet once more that depending on who uses magic, it is considered a good deed or it is frowned upon, because this woman is not righteous, she is a witch, and therefore her entrails produce monsters, literally monster fetuses. This is so wild from the Shāh-nāmeh. Shāh-nāmeh hit her, the woman, and then the 2 then lay groaning on her bed as if in labor. Her maid servants came running and saw the 2 dead devil spawn on a golden salver, while Shāh-nāmeh screamed and tore at her clothes in pain, allegedly. Qaboos woke trembling at the noise and was told that something was happening to his wife. He hardly drew breath from the rest of the night, and at dawn he hurried to the women's quarters, where he saw Shāh-nāmeh stretch out, her quarters in an uproar, and the 2 dead monstrosities, the 2 babies lying pathetically on a golden salver. Her eyes awash with tears, Shāh-nāmeh said, "See the work of this paragon of yours, and like a fool you believed his lies." Are you actually, are you aware of how much this is escalating? Qaboos was sick at heart. He knew this was something he could not ignore, and he brooded on how to resolve the situation. He had astrologers summoned. He told them of Shāh-nāmeh's story and of the war with Hama-Beiran, then showed them the dead babies and asked their opinion. The men set to work with their astrolabes and charts, and after a week declared that poison did not turn to wine by being placed in a goblet, and that these 2 babies were not Shāh-nāmeh's or the king's, but the spawn of an evil race. For a week, Qaboos kept his own counsel, saying nothing, as he's an expert on doing. But then, Shāh-nāmeh appealed to him again, saying, "I was the king's companion in adversity, and my heart so wrung with grief for my murdered babies." She keeps on going, like she's believing her own lies at this point. "My murdered babies, God. I hardly live from one moment to the next." But Qaboos turned to her and said, "Be quiet, woman! Enough of this sickening lies of yours." Then he ordered the palace guard to search high and low throughout the city for the baby's mother. They found her nearby and dragged her before the king. For days he questioned her kindly and made her promises. Then he had her tied up and tortured. But she refused to confess. Finally, he gave orders that she was to be threatened with execution, and that if she still stayed silent, she be sawn in 2. But her only reply was that she was innocent and they did not know what to say. When Qaboos was told of her response, he went to Shāh-nāmeh and informed her of what the astrologers had said. But Shāh-nāmeh's reply was that they only said this because they were afraid of Shāh-nāmeh. Keeps on going. When to stop? Never to stop. She added that even if he felt no grief from the dead children, she had no other recourse than him and was content to leave the resolution of this quarrel to the world to come. She wept more water than the sun draws up from the Nile, and Qaboos wept with her. May I remind you, because this is important, that Qaboos is still in love with this mad, evil, absolutely corrupted woman. Qaboos dismissed her and summoned his priest and explained the situation. They advised that he try one of them, because there's one element that keeps truth highlighted. There is one element in the world that makes lies appear. Lies do not stay hidden from this thing. And this is fire. A trial by fire. A fire ordeal. And this Bachar is among the most represented episodes in the Shāh-nāmeh, the fire ordeal. And why are they saying this? Because of course, you know how the Shāh-nāmeh fails to explain exactly which religion people believe into, because we have Ahriman equated to the devil, then we have Iblis, and then we have God as in the Muslim God, but also sometimes he's mentioned as Ahura Mazda. So there is this mixture of Muslim Iran plus Zoroastrian, some things inherited by Zoroastrianism, and of course Zoroastrianism it's known for the presence of the fire, and fire was used in trials to prove who was telling the truth or not, because it was believed that those that were innocent would be unharmed by it. So they advised that he try one of them by fire, for the heavens would ensure that the innocent would not be harmed. He had Shāh-nāmeh and Shāh-nāmeh called and said that in his heart he could trust neither of them unless fire demonstrated which of the two was guilty. Shāh-nāmeh's answer was that she had demonstrated Shāh-nāmeh's guilt by producing the two miscarried babies, and that he should undergo the trial as he had acted evilly and sought to destroy her. Qaboos turned to his young son and asked him his opinion. Shāh-nāmeh, of course, knows that he is innocent. He's done nothing wrong. So he replied that hell itself was less hateful than Shāh-nāmeh's words, and that if there were a mountain of fire, he would pass through it to prove his innocence. Torn between his love for Shāh-nāmeh and his regard for his son, Qaboos decided to go ahead with the trial. He had 100 caravans of camels and another 100 of red-haired dromedaries bring wood, and servants piled it into 2 huge hills. She's a tearbender, yeah, and Shāh-nāmeh is a firebender! This story would be over if he sent Shāh-nāmeh into the fire. Definitely over. Yep, you are most correct. That logo. Yep. 2 huge hills, between which was a narrow pathway such as 4 horsemen might with difficulty pass through. While the populace watched from a distance, Qaboos had priests pour thick pitch on the pyre. 200 men dashed out to set fire, and such black clouds of smoke rose up, you'd say dark night usurped the brilliance of the day. But then quick tongues of flame shot out, and soon the plain glowed brighter than the sky at noon. Heat scorched the burning ground, and everywhere the noise of lamentation filled the air. They wept to see the prince, who came alone on a black horse before his father's throne. And here, Bachar, allow me, I have the pleasure to introduce you to another character of importance. He doesn't speak, he walks on 4s, and he is a horse. He is Shabrang. Shabrang literally means the color of night, and this is the black stallion and Siavash's best friend. This horse is so important. You have no idea, and you will keep on seeing why throughout the narrative arc of Siavash. And I am delighted that you know of him already, because Shabrang is basically Siavash's most trusted companion, and he's gonna stand by his side for a very long time. Again, do not forget him, because Shabrang, he's just magnificent as his rider. Team horses! Yay! The real heroes, definitely. Although I would say Siavash is a hero here. So, Siavash puts on his helmet made of gold. His clothes were white and camphor strewn according to the rite. And here we can assume that they are talking about Zoroastrianism and Zoroastrian practices. Dismounting from his horse, he stood, then bowed to the king gently. If you wanted to refrain in the royal court, get a horse. Definitely, Uloko. That would be my advice too. Gently his father spoke, and in his face, the prince saw conscious shame and deep disgrace. Yes, Kaikavus, you're allowing your son to do this. Why? But Siavash said, "Do not grieve, my lord. The heavens willed at this. And rest assured the fire will have no strength to endure me. My innocence ensures my victory." He's just too precious. My heart. When Shāh-nāmeh heard the tumult, she came out on the roof of her palace and saw the fire. Muttering to herself in rage, she longed for evil to befall the prince. The whole world's eyes were fixed on Kavus. Men cursed him, their hearts filled with indignation. Then Siavash wheeled, urging his horse impetuously into the fire. Tongues of flame enveloped him, and both him and Shabrang disappeared into the fire. Tears were in all eyes. The whole plain waited, wondering if he would re-emerge, and when they glimpsed him, a shout went up. "The young prince has escaped the fire!" He was untouched, as if he'd ridden through water and emerged bone dry. For when God wills it, he renders fire and water equally harmless. Of course, he is unharmed. He is innocent. Seeing Siavash, all the plain and city gave a great cry of gratitude, and the army's cavalry galloped forward, scattering gold coins in his path. Nobles and commoners alike rejoiced, passing on the news to another that God has justified the innocent. But Shāh-nāmeh wept and tore at her hair and scored her cheeks with her nails. Siavash appeared before his father, and there was no trace of fire or smoke or dust or dirt on him. Kavus dismounted. For the firebender, absolutely! Siavash is the firebender! Yoo-hoo! Watch out for this one, Butcher. Kavus dismounted, as did all the army, and the king clasped his son in his arm, asking his pardon for the evil that he had been done. This is a first. For the first time in forever, Kai Kavus is saying he's sorry. He never said that. He never did. And he's saying that to his son. He's apologizing, for crying out loud. There is a God after all. He's apologizing to Siavash because he had to go through the fire to prove that he was innocent, and he didn't believe him and such. But Siavash, of course, Siavash forgives him. Of course. He gave thanks to God that he had escaped the flames and that his enemies' designs had been destroyed. The king heaped praise on him, and the two walked in state to the palace, where, the royal crown was placed on the prince's head, and for 3 days the court gave itself up to wine and music. Such a moving moment, such an important event has happened. After the fire ordeal, Kavus, as a present, as a gift, he bestows the royal crown on his son's head. But, on the fourth day, Kavuz sat enthroned in majesty, no more parties, his ox-headed mace in his hand, and peremptorily summoned Shāh-nāmeh. He went over what she had claimed, then said, "Your shameless behavior has tormented my heart for long enough. You played foul tricks against my son, thrusting him into the fire. You used magic against him, and no apology will avail you now. Leave this place and prepare yourself for the gallows. You do not deserve to live, and hanging is the only fit punishment for what you have done." She answered, very proud, "If my head," arrogant this woman, "if my head is to be severed from my body, I am ready. Give your orders. But I want you to harbor no resentment against me in your heart. So let Shāh-nāmeh tell the truth." And yet again another lie. It was Zal's magic that saved him. You know Zal, Simur's kid? He has some dominion of the fire because of the feathers his mom gave him. So this woman, even in this moment that is proven, like, she's just saying that God was wrong, basically, and it was not God, it was not an act of the deity, it was just Zal's doing. Zal that was not here whatsoever, so he was in Zabolistan, minding his own business, I think, and then the king burst out. "Still at your tricks? It's a wonder you're not hunchbacked with the weight of your impertinence." I admit that is a good one. Like, this sentence. Kavuz is not the sharpest tool in the shed. But this sentence, though, it's a wonder, you're not hunchbacked with the weight of your impertinence. That's a good one. And then he turned to the court crying, "What punishment is suitable for the crime she has committed in secret?" And all answered, "The just punishment is that she suffer death for the evil she has done." Kavuz said to the executioner, "Take her and hang her in the public way, and show no mercy." When all abandoned Shāh-nāmeh in this fashion, the women of the court broke into loud lamentation, and Kavuz turned pale, his heart wrung by their cries, because, again, Kavuz is still in love with this woman. But, nevertheless, however, Shāh-nāmeh appears, and he says to the king, "Torment yourself no more about this matter. Forgive her for my sake. Now, surely, she will accept good guidance and reform her ways." This man is a national treasure, and we have to keep him from all the harm in the world. He's so pure. He's asking his father that he forgives the woman that lunged at him completely naked, was about to abuse him physically against his will, had him thrown into the fire and caused him so many troubles and pains. And yet, there is no room for resentment in Shāh-nāmeh's heart. And he asks kindly to his father if he could forgive her. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, I love him. I love him. I love him. I love him. Le quiero, le quiero, le quiero, le quiero, le quiero. Oh, Zizo. And to himself, he said, "If Shāh-nāmeh is destroyed, the king will regret this eventually, and when that happens, he will blame me for her death." So, you know, Shāh-nāmeh is very clever, but so is Shāh-nāmeh, and they both know very well the king they're dealing with. So Shāh-nāmeh wants to take zero chances on being blamed from the death or any harm that could befall upon this woman. Kavuz, who had been looking for some excuse to not kill Shāh-nāmeh, said, "For your sake, I forgive her. For your sake, my ass." Siavash kissed his father's throne and then rose and left the court. The women of the quarters flocked about Shāh-nāmeh, the queen, bowing before her one by one. So, after some time, the king's heart once again inclined to Shāh-nāmeh, and his love was such that he could not tear his eyes from her face. Once again, her evil nature reasserted itself, and she began to weave her secret spells, plotting against Siavash once more. And listening to her, such as Graima did to King Theoden, I don't know if you picture it, Kavuz once again began to turn against his son, but for the moment, he concealed his suspicions. And this, Bacha, is where we are going to stop. Thank you so much for coming to this reading. I told you this was gonna be alright, and I think it definitely was. Again, undoubtedly one of my favorite parts of the Shāh-nāmeh. Incredible. Now you can shower Siavash with the love he deserves, because he is amazing. I love him. He's perfect. He's just, there's nothing wrong with him whatsoever. Allow me to put my post-it note back where it belongs in case I want to read these again, because it makes me so uncomfortable, but at the same time I love this part so much. But wow, thank you for coming for the Iranian telenovela, because that is exactly what we were witnessing here, the Iranian telenovela. And but thank you, Shāh, so much. And allow me to say thank you for your patience, especially to my patrons. June has been a very busy month, and I know I've been absent quite a while, but I hope July is going to be a little bit more chill, because as I love to say, there's the life behind this green screen. And that waits for nobody. So thank you so much, Shāh. It's been of my greatest pleasure. And you know that you can access all the episodes of the Book of Kings on YouTube. They're also on Spotify and iBox if you want to listen to them as in a podcast format. Thank you so much for sharing my favorite book with me. And yeah, I hope you have a lovely rest of the week. I cannot say goodbye without reminding you to create, to explore, and to have tons of fun. Until we see each other next time, Shāh, I bid you Khuda Hafiz!